we begin with the market's roller coaster ride, a rate shock slamming stocks right at the open. At one point, the Dow was down 589 points, but then came the turnaround. Yields started coming off the lows, and stocks staged their biggest comeback of the year. What was behind this, Tim?
I think we just got so oversold, Mel. If you look at the 10-year, we were actually at 20 years we hadn't been this oversold in a relative strength, or however you want to measure it, but you can measure it. I mean, you can basically see that we went from 204 down to 161, 159, I think was the low on the 30-year bond. We got within a whisper. We might have touched. We were probably a bip north of the all-time historical low set on July 8th. So when you came in this morning, it was bonds, banks, and Brent, which were driving the story. And then suddenly that turnaround Tuesday that we were talking about happened on Wednesday. And again, I think you just came from a place of being extremely oversold. The machines had gone to work, whatever you want to say. Fundamentals on the equity market right now are such that I think bad news is bad news. And I think that's not necessarily going to be a panacea in the way that it has been. But I think for a day, at least, we're addressing the reality. Things were oversold.
I mean, we were just showing the chart of the 10-year yield. 173 is where we went out. But can you imagine that in the pre-market session, when the futures really started rolling over, we were more than 10 basis points lower. I mean, that's an extraordinary intrigue.
Yeah, and I can't answer what was behind it, but what I will say is, and we talked about this Monday, you were looking on Tuesday for a day where the market craters and then spends the rest of the day recovering. That was going to be your tell. All right, we didn't get it yesterday, and we're all disappointed. We talked about it at the top of the show. We thought it was a bit of a head fake. Today is that day, and I have no idea if this is a bottom or not, but if nothing else, today gives you something to trade against on the long side with a number of different stocks that I'm sure we'll talk about. But basically your level is on the downside in the S&P, now 2,800. So again, having no idea what the future holds in terms of this market, I think today gave you a very interesting tradable bottom.
So you feel better?
Oh, much better today. Absolutely.
Do you feel better?
I do. I mean, we were all talking about turnaround Tuesday and how it really was unfortunate. Yesterday we came into the market was up. That doesn't feel very flushing out of panic and so very good to see it down that big was, a little bit scary. And so, I like to watch the VIX, and we got up not quite 24. I mean, it's starting to get into panicky sort of feeling. Pete can talk more about that. But so to me, this is a day where I have to sort of, all right, I got to start selling puts, even though it's really scary to do because you feel like you need that protection. But also you can see it just collapse. I haven't started thinking, all right, what am I going to buy yet?
I would say that the combination of the trade war, currency war issue that we face right now, I think it was legit that we were getting sold the way we were. And have we gotten the bottom? None of us really know the answer to that right now. But I would say this. We bring it up all the time. I specifically bring it up, so I'll put it on my shoulders. Algorithms, right? Algorithmic trading. Well, this absolutely. That turn from noon, Mel, till the close on today was unbelievable how fast that move was to the upside. So algorithms, in my opinion, were a big part of this.
Were they a part of the downside?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I bring that up all the time to the downside, so I'm bringing it up to the upside now. Is the algorithms were going to the upside. So it happens in both directions. This is a great example of that. And Karen brings up volatility. Well, we were stuck in that 12 to 14 in the month of July, basically. Well, since we've gotten to August, we're 18 to 24. And this volatility, I think there's going to be volatility within volatility. We've pushed up towards 24 a couple of different times, pulled back. Today, we actually pulled all the way back underneath 20, closer to 18, 19. I don't know that that's over with because I continue to see buyers of the VIX and buyers of other different areas of the marketplace that tell me they don't think it's over just yet.
Yeah, just, the intraday move to the downside was almost as extraordinary, at least to the upside. Look, I woke up this morning, Dow futures were flat down small. It was not the day it was set up to be. By the time I got done dropping my kids off at camp, it was time to feel pretty concerned. And it was time to actually assess really what had changed this morning. And nothing had changed. If anything, we had some more reinforcement from Fed governors saying that this could be an environment where the Fed may have to change and be more aggressive. The bottom line here is, again, back to the Fed. I think the Fed has been rendered irrelevant. And I think we have a case here where whether this is ultimately good news, Guy, I would pose this to you. In other words, is it now good news that the Fed no longer can equal good news on bad news? Does that make sense?
No. And usually,
especially for you.
In other words, as we are seeing the sell-off today and the rollover, et cetera, there wasn't that thinking kicking in that this is going to make it more likely for the Fed to step in.
And again, I mean, I happen to think that and Steve Leisman is coming on. I don't want to sort of bury the lead here, but we'll talk about central banks. But I think so many of them have rendered themselves irrelevant. Now the markets have taken over. I think to Pete's point,
including
you're going to see
the U.S.
volatility
Federal Reserve.
Without question. But we'll have that conversation. But in terms of, I don't feel secure that it's a bottom by any stretch. My point at the top of the show is, I think today gave you something to sort of shoot against on the downside for the first time in a while. In other words, you have a tradable bottom. We didn't have it yesterday. We talked about it. I think you might have had it today.